Welcome to the first turn. I'm Hyena.
I'm Llama.
And today we're talking about 2 weeks to go for Adepticon. Well,
here.
it's coming up quick. I think we are. We're ready.
Yeah.
You know, I'm prepared mentally, not physically, not hobby wise.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it though. I'm excited. We've got a little bit showed off today, a little bit showed off this week. We kind of weren't expecting. Things get leaked and they get revealed and all that. I'm wondering if we actually got to see something that may have been revealed at Adepticon here in a couple weeks, a little bit early, a little bit spoiled early. I mean, we knew Orks updates were coming for 40k. We've got a whole campaign around Armageddon. Armageddon not just being an event, but being a place. Orks operate in Armageddon. We had rumors that was going to be taking place and Orks were going to be getting a major refresh. Look at other episodes we've done, what we talked about, kind of what the army needs, what needs to be refreshed, all that. A new war boss, generic version of him, great. That's kind of what we got leaked. Stuff is supposed to come with him, obviously. Plenty of kits that are 10 plus years old that can be fully replaced without mercy.
It's in a weird spot, similar to where Eldar were prior to this last edition, because Eldar got a lot of I think all their aspect warriors are now finally up to date. They just didn't get Karandris or whatever. But Orks are another one of those Xenos armies that has a surprisingly large roster, but some of their kits are, even the ones that you think about aren't that old, are now 12 years old plus. And so it's like, wow, yeah, they're due for a great big massive refresh. And then the rumors have been and at first I thought it was unrealistic. It's like, no, that seems like too many. And then we thought about both Age of Sigmar and 40k. It seems like whatever opposition to the quote good guy force is really, and even the good guy force, it's like, well, they get a whole bunch of new stuff in the starter box, and then they end up getting in the neighborhood of like 8 to however many kits alongside their book. So the Orks could be due for a massive wave. And if they get a couple of things with Armageddon that may come right before 11th, that's even more. And so this leak, it went around the internet as a torn up box. And so no one knows if that's AI or if it was fake. But then 5 seconds later, GW is on their website like, yep, here he is. He's a real thing.
And it looks great. Aesthetically very different, I think, from what we're used to with Orks. Not as goofy looking as they have been in the past. Even characters have been a little goofy. This guy looks proper savage. Like, he looks mean. I think he looks really, really good.
His face is really expressive. It's not just
I could see hijacking him for fantasy too, if you wanted. He wouldn't look too out of place in Age of Sigmar alongside the Iron Jaws or something. I think that'd be great. So that's cool. It's nice to see something that can go back and forth between the two systems for a hobbyist. Because typically it's Age of Sigmar stuff comes out and they're like, "What can we use that for 40k?" Because that's usually
you see people say that all the time. Yeah,
but now you see this is like, yeah, I can see it go the other way.
Yeah, you choose the leather belts for him instead of the ammo belt. You give him a beat up looking hand axe and you throw him in Age of Sigmar. Yeah, and he'd fit.
Super cool. But yeah, so I'm excited about that. We had
they also said
Orks.
Before we jump off, they also said that Monday, look out Monday for more
stuff
on the Orc stuff. And as we pointed out last week, they've been doing this like show off a new thing on Mondays. Well, now they're kind of confirming that they're going to. So tune in tomorrow for people.
I want to say they did say they were going to do that, a few months ago. Said Mondays we're going to be releasing models. But then they weren't consistent with that.
Right.
But every release we have had recently where it's been models has been on a Monday. Besides like the occasional special occasion, Sylvaneth getting on a Saturday, a new model release. Excited about that. We had more. We had all the other characters that were kind of released alongside the campaigns are for pre-order now. So they're coming.
That was one of the
stuff hit the shelves.
longer. That was one of the longer waits for a payoff we've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Because those Tau twin suits and the Tyranid guy and the Votan guy, those were shown off quite a while ago, and now they're available for pre-order. So
and just all at once.
Yeah.
Just crazy. We were actually talking a little bit about that new Prime, the Lash Whip Prime, which really they should just call him a Tyranid Prime on foot. Like it shouldn't be with Lash Whip because it's like, yeah, he's got a Lash Whip, but he's also got sighting talons and he's got
a rending
whatever
claw.
rending claw. Yeah. Like he has all the weapon options. You don't have to choose. He's just Tyranid Prime on foot.
Yep.
I thought that was a little weird. Is there going to be a Tyranid Prime with, bio cannon, instead of Lash Whip? I don't know.
Right.
But we were talking about how the fact that we've got the winged Prime from back in Leviathan, and we've got this new Prime on foot. Maybe they're gearing up towards something with releasing new warriors. Because again, you think about the warrior kit, you're like, oh, classic kit, so good, doesn't need a refresh. It's like, well, think about when it came out. I could see it refreshing.
They could refresh it because, like, even between that time, which was like 6th edition maybe, and now the Tyranid aesthetic, no pun intended, evolved. It changed, and they've made them sharper, more slender. They've packed more detail into these spaces, and I think, and then with both these primes, the winged one and now this guy on foot, you could update the warriors and have them be less static with the same bottom arms have guns, top arms have and they could make them more interesting. And if you're going to have these 2 different kinds of prime that can attach to different kinds of troops, why not have warriors with wings? And since you're going to have warriors on foot, and so that's been one rumor, is that like Tyranids won't get a big update in 11th because they just got a huge pile of models, but they might get that kit. They might get like, here's warriors with wings, or warriors that can make either winged ones or ones on foot, because the respective primes can only attach to one or the other. Right now, I think the winged prime can only attach to gargoyles, which is odd.
Right, which is weird.
Or he attaches to the warriors, but then he has to move their speed and not fly. So yeah.
Maybe we're onto something there. Maybe something's coming. But I was always thinking about, like, what else is there in Tyranids even that either doesn't make sense anymore or it needs an update. I could see getting the Prime or the Tyrant and the Swarm Lord getting an update. So the kit where it's like, it's an old kit.
It's pretty old now.
Like scale wise, it doesn't feel like he's big enough anymore. Like the winged one, sure, those wings are huge.
His footprint's big, yeah. But
even like the Hive Tyrant, it's like, you're kind of a little guy now. Look at what they did with those Catan shards, right? You had the Nightbringer was this big, and now he's he's doubled in size.
Yeah.
I could see something like that happening for the Swarm Lord.
Look at the difference even with the Space Marine Dreadnought. Yeah, they gave him the name Redemptor, but look at the difference between the old refrigerator we had and then this new thing. It's like twice the size.
I mean, but it's also like more appropriately sized.
Yeah.
You see it in any media besides the tabletop, and a Dreadnought is proper large. That little refrigerator Dreadnought that was as tall as a Space Marine is like didn't fit. It was weird. No. But I could see it happening. I was also thinking about the awkward kit that is the Hive Guard and Tyrant Guard, and how they are just, it's a weird kit. It feels like it was from an old edition. It doesn't feel like it has a place anymore. Like maybe if they made warriors more elite, you could just straight up replace those units with just warriors. Warriors leader, follow around the Hive Tyrant instead of
a specific bodyguard unit that
weird.
Doesn't even actually attach to him. He just kind of walks around. So I don't know. That's in a weird place now. There's even some of the monster kits, because they did a big wave of them in 6th edition. It was funny. The Tervagon and Tyrannifex got rules in 5th, but the model didn't come until after. And that was the whole chapter house thing and blah, blah, blah. But like, even those monsters from that era that came out are all starting to look odd. I don't know when they'll get around. Those are big kits, but yeah, I mean, the Warriors and maybe the Tyrant might be due when they come around. But the Tau suits, those twins, we got the payoff. And so it's funny is it's not the first like twin heroes we've seen in a game, though they technically were previewed earlier, because for Nurgle Maggot, Age of Sigmar, we have the Cankerborn, which are 2 model hero unit. Instead of like a squad or individuals. How does it function in 40k for them that you've seen so far?
Well, obviously they don't attach to a unit. They are their own thing. But I mean, they operate like a small man unit of crisis suits, right? They've got a lot of wounds. They've got a lot of really good shooting, a high ballistic skill, pretty good special rules. You know, they've sustained hits and everything. Like they're pretty good.
Can they actually fight in melee?
No, they shoot at close range is their thing.
Okay.
But I mean, they're equipped with pistols and everything. Like they're vehicles, so it doesn't really matter. But they can shoot everything no matter what. But there's sufficient number of wounds. They've got good saves and invulns and everything. Like they're pretty solid. They might be too cheap. They're pretty cheap points wise. But I think they're very very good. Put them in every army basically. They kind of do what any of the other named character battle suits want to do, but they've been kind of too afraid to actually let them do. Like Shadow Sun is nothing compared to these guys. Hell, even Farsight in his battle suit, like he doesn't do as much as they do. You know, like it's just disappointing that like you have to have a new thing that does what these other characters are supposed to do correctly. You know,
and so do we think, because that came up, a lot of people talked about that when the Catan Shard of the Nightbringer came out, and his rules were just so much monstrously better than Catan Shards. And the Catan Shards were not shabby to begin with, but he is now what you think of him. He's the fragment of a god on a battlefield, like the Avatar, like a Bloodthirster, etc. And then some things just don't translate. And so they're wondering, like, do you think the rest of them are going to get this glow up with the next set of rules? And now we've seen this with like this Tyranid Prime with Lash Whip. It's like a better fighter than the Norn Emissary. And so are those rules going to change? And now you've got these twin Tau suits that do better than the big suits or the commanders. Do we think they'll get a glow up to match? Or
man, I hope so.
Are these just rules for haha end of edition, have fun?
Now I'm hoping that we see something like epic heroes and named characters and stuff kind of stand up to that title, right? Like give them proper good rules and points that match, you know, but make them special, make them good, make them worth taking. Because I mean, so many times we see like a chapter master model and you're like, okay, cool, but I can't customize him. I can build this other character for cheaper that attaches to the unit, the same unit, and does better because he confers a special rule and he costs less and he fights better because I gave him a relic, that kind of thing. You see that happen all the time. And so it's like, oh, why would I take the named character? He's so either marginally better or worse, you know.
Well,
it's just not worth it.
That's why every few editions a Smash Captain comes into fashion, because they'll be able to build one for like 90 points who can jump around the board hidden and then literally kill whatever he attacks.
Yeah.
And then from within the inside a building while he's hiding, he can confer a rule to the unit standing right outside the building. And so you don't need to take Dante or whatever. You don't have to take the 200-point named guy. So yeah, hopefully we'll see that rectified a little bit. I feel like they're better about that in Age of Sigmar. Maybe I'm biased. It's like the named guy now is very different from their generic equivalent newer books. Yeah.
I think that's accurate. They're kind of differentiating more a little bit between the epic heroes and the normal heroes, which is good. Like I want to see that. But we also had just a balanced data slate this week too, which I don't know if you read through that. There were some updates to all kinds of stuff. Mostly improvements.
Okay.
Units are getting bonus strength and damage, AP, that kind of stuff. Some clarifications on, how letting things work better in the game, because like sometimes it specifies a model, not a unit, or something like that. So they're kind of cleaning that up a little bit. They help some of the more elite armies. I noticed that. AdMech got some pretty good updates that I think were improvements. You had things like, what was the big one? They gave a kind of an improvement to Chaos Knights. They gave an improvement to Space Marines. Go figure. But it was a unit in Space Marines that was really just kind of useless, which are the Outriders, the bikes. Like there were, throughout different editions, bikers have always kind of been really hit or miss. You have to play the right army, you have to play the right sub-faction to make a bike unit work, right? And it just usually doesn't unless you play specifically a White Scars army or you play Dark Angels, Raven Wing, right? Those are the two armies that make bikes work. I think they made bikes a little bit more universally good now. So, and the only thing they had to do was give them a new rule. That was it.
Yeah.
The new rules, and it's pretty good. It's like whenever they charge now, they get +1, I think +1 damage and +1 to wound. So it's like or +1 strength and +1 damage. I think it's what it was. Pretty darn good. Like that's a pretty good improvement, you know. Like,
Yeah.
anytime your bikers charge, well, we know there are some bike characters coming, right? They've got rumored to have a captain on a bike now. In 11th edition, I think. Was there something like that? Correct me if I'm
Maybe.
wrong. I thought there were rumors of like a lot of the Space Marine characters are getting their stuff back. Because we had like there was a couple of really weird kind of missing parts, right? Like things just kind of didn't work in some ways because we didn't have unit support, right? Like the only bike character we had for the longest time was a chaplain, right? It's like how are you supposed to do like a bike army if you have nothing else to ride along with them? You know, like we had one mounted character for White Scar, specifically a named character. Like, okay, cool, but what about bikes in general? You know, so yeah, it's +1 strength, +1 damage of their melee weapons the turn they charge. That's
Okay.
pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, making it so that now a biker's strength 5 damage 2 when they charge instead of strength 4 damage 1.
Mopey.
Yeah, really, really bad. Now it's like that's worth it. Now you might see a small task force of bikes riding around doing stuff. I might run them for that. You know, they're quick, they're tough, they got a lot of wounds. They can punch kind of hard now. So, but on little stuff. I mean, they gave Ren to some weapons for Space Marines, like the Pyre Blaster, the flamethrower on the flame unit that came out during Leviathan. They have Ren now on their flamers. So they're Ren 1 or AP 1. They gave like all the Phobos guys who have combat knives are now AP 1. That's good. You know, like that's about time.
That never made sense to me. It was like they're supposed to be these close quarters terror shock troops, but it was like combat was supposed to be their thing, but their knives did nothing, and it was their pistol that had the rend, but it's a pistol.
The knives didn't. Yeah, pretty weird. So they have that now. Some stat changes to some weapons that probably should have had them to begin with. Like heavy bolters now are just BS3 instead of needing to sit still to get BS3. You're just BS3 all the time now.
That's not bad.
Good. And if you stand still, you're BS2. All right, cool. Like that's
pretty good.
That's a nice little bonus to heavy bolters. They're not the best weapon, but maybe they hit better now. You know, instead of being kind of unreliable. So there's that. I'm trying to think what else was it.
And again, we don't know if this is what will stick following the rotation into 11th. But for now, I have to think this is with the foreknowledge of what's coming, that they've made some of these design changes for the game.
Right.
I'm
hoping so. Right.
I think it's funny is I actually think Marines are almost always in a weird spot because while they're the flagship imagery wise of their games, and they're the hottest selling thing all the time, they oftentimes have too many options that overlap each other to create this mud mixer, to borrow a term from oil painting, like of redundancy, and yet their stats are like almost never good enough. Mm-hmm. It ends up some other rule that makes them good. Like if you remember when I think it was might have been 9th or 10th edition, when one of those started, all people bemoaned about was how bad Space Marines were. They were garbage. They cost too many points. Their stats sucked. They have no Ren, no whatever. Yet everyone was playing them, and they were finishing 8 out of the top 10 of every tournament because of a single rule called Oath of Moment, or a single stratagem that allowed a unit to kind of like quadruple its effectiveness. And that's a bad place to be, I think. If like one line special rule or one stratagem makes an entire army viable, I think the Space Marines are just kind of bad. So but you can't make a movie Marines either, right? We can't have 89 point tactical Marines.
Mhm.
So I think these little tweaks are a fine start, but they could probably still do more, right? I mean, we saw someone point out that this new Leagues of Votann character coming out with these other heroes, he's a naked dwarf, and they were comparing him to like a Terminator, right? You get this Terminator in tactical dreadnought armor who can withstand guns that would take out buildings, yet he is 3 wounds, tough 5. This naked Leagues of Votann guy is tough 6 with 5 wounds and has like an invuln and then some sort of other damage
Feel
reduction.
no pain as well.
Like,
Yeah.
why is this little naked dwarf so much tougher than a tactical dreadnought suit, like with
Yeah.
a superhuman space marine in it? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know.
That was the thing you talked about when it's like this awesome Stormcast hero who is this demigod of battle has 3 attacks that do 2 damage and he has 5 health. Meanwhile, this goblin over here in the Gloomspite Gets army has 6
Yeah, he
health.
hits 1 less, but he gets 6 attacks at 2
Yeah.
damage. Same number of wounds, still a 4-up save. It's like, what? Yeah. Yeah, no, I think their stats, they're like base stats are a little too precious. They're too nervous to change some of the stats to make things make a little bit more sense, just because things have been how they've been for a very long time.
Oh,
Right.
And speaking of that, they changed their paint line.
Oh, who cares?
So
All right, that's all I have to say about that.
Well, I'll make this quick. So we remember when, to celebrate their like 40th anniversary or whatever it was, they temporarily had the Games Workshop logo that was in like a black and white font that just was like Arial caps lock Games Workshop. The internet freaked out and said, but we've had the red and yellow forever. That's from our childhood. It's so symbolic and nostalgic and blah, blah, blah. How could you do this? Someone very, I don't know, it was kind of mean, but kind of necessary, pointed out that, first of all, they didn't change their logo to this. They were doing it in honor of X anniversary. Second, this was their first logo.
Right.
So everyone's freak out was really misplaced. Now, that's not the internet's going to overreact no matter what. Well, Games Workshop just announced that they were changing their paint line from being called Citadel color to Warhammer color. I think, A, that makes complete sense.
What is Citadel? Like what?
Yeah, so it's funny.
You know what I mean? Exactly, right? Like that's... Yeah,
there's a whole history of it, and it's 2 different things. Citadel Miniatures and Citadel Color were not even the same thing. It was like a coincidence that they had that name for both of them. One was founded by somebody else, and they used to make Ral Partha miniatures and D&D miniatures, and then Games Workshop had such a big demand because they were doing full army scale games, and they just absorbed Citadel Miniatures. They eventually changed to just call their figures like Warhammer, right? The color, the paint line, was by Coat d'Arms, and they made historic paints originally, and eventually, like again, Games Workshop just sort of absorbed them, and it became their paint line. But now they don't even use HMG Manufacturing or whoever used to make it before. Now they make their paints in house. So it didn't even make sense to hang on to the Citadel nomenclature anyway. And what is it, right? The symbol didn't match the company logo. It wasn't used for anything. It doesn't come up on any of their video game IP. You don't see Citadel. Like, that's not what comes up. It's the Warhammer logo, right? And so, whatever. They changed it to Warhammer color. Here's the thing. The paint formulas are still exactly the same. The paint pots are still exactly the same. The font is even the same. It's just got the word Warhammer instead of that stenciled Citadel.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it makes more like what happened to Forge World, right? Forge World's basically gone. There are no Forge World miniatures anymore. They're just Warhammer expert kits, right? Yeah. They've rebranded from Games Workshop basically to Warhammer.
Right, and so people
their website is now warhammer.com. It's
right,
not
and
Games
now
Workshop
people are saying, when's that going to come? When are they going to stop calling themselves Games Workshop and just call themselves Warhammer?
And so it's like the paint, it's confusing. You're like, oh, you need to get Games Workshop paints. Okay, what is it? The Citadel? What is Citadel?
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. Like, who cares? Like, it's such a small thing that they're calling their Warhammer paint, their paint for Warhammer. They're calling it Warhammer paint colors now. Like, who cares?
And you know what's funny? I never No, even with all these thousands of content creators now, did I hear anyone, even when they were referencing GW paints that they were using, first of all, they would say that. They would say GW or Games Workshop paint, or they would just say the name of the paint.
Yep.
Baharoth blue and whatever, corn red. So I never heard anyone ever refer to them as Citadel miniatures or Citadel paint. So like losing the Citadel color to call it work, is that really going to be the thing that makes you quit? I mean, so we can talk all day about, well, why didn't they move to a better bottle? Because their little pots with a flip cap can be fiddly and the paint can dry around the lid and whatever. I mean, I use a wet palette, so if I'm using their paint, it's not a big deal. I grab a dollop, put it on the palette, close the lid. I don't get paint around the lid. So I don't know. I guess they could have switched to a dropper of some sort and done that. But I also think that's a part of their identity. So it's funny that people talk about the things that they associate with Games Workshop forever that they don't want to change. That pot is kind of iconic to their paint. And so what do you want? If they would
have I'd be kind of irritated if they changed it, because I've got a paint box that is made that's got foam cut to that bottle size. I'd be a little irritated.
And so I just think, like, if they would have changed the bottle, everyone would have freaked out about that. It's like, oh, we've always had the little bolter round looking thing, like, and now it's changed. Like, I don't know. This is one of I think the weakest complaint movements for something they've done to change by just changing the name. I mean, everyone said this when Goblin Green and Chestnut Ink and Blood Angels Red, when those went away, but that's because the other company who used to make them owned those names was the problem. And so they had to change it to protect their own IP. Everyone said, well, I'm not going to use these. They don't use these names anymore. Well, they're still using their paint. So I don't know. Their paint is still one of the best selling lines on the market. I don't think this is going to be the death of them, because they're now calling them Warhammer paint, Warhammer color.
Anyway, Space Marines, though.
Space Marines.
A couple of things they did change, which were kind of neat, I will say, too. Some of the lesser used units kind of got abilities that made them better. I still don't see Impulsor or the Impulsor in here. I don't see, or the Repulsor, the transport, unless
Impulsor's the transport, right?
One of them's transport. A lot of the transports that they had, their transport capacity went up. The Repulsor went up to 14.
That's the big one. Okay.
The Impulsor went up to 7, so they can carry an extra guy or two, which is good. The Intercessor Squad got a new ability, so they can add 2 whenever they shoot in your shooting phase. Now, each time this unit is selected to shoot, it can use this ability. Until the end of the phase, add 2 to the attacks characters of their bolt rifles.
Wow.
So that would be within half range. They'd also be rapid fire, I believe. I think they are assault, so they can advance and still shoot. I think they're heavy, so they can stand still and get +1 to hit. They get all those, right? And then just straight up +2 attacks whenever they are targeted.
That's making the bolter pretty fierce.
But they all have to target the same target. You can't split fire. They have to focus fire. Okay. That's the trade-off. So it's like, okay.
It's like
pretty good, though.
Yeah, right? It's like a round of overkill focus fire kind of thought.
Cool. The Infernus Squad, which is the flaming one, now when they force its battle shock test, it's at a -1 to the test. Good. That's in addition to their AP1 now. So that's good. The Desolation Squad, which are the missile launchers, are not required to be in units of 10 anymore. You can take them in units of 5.
Okay.
Which I think you could take them in 5 and then up them to 10 if you wanted, for a cost. But being able to take the missile launcher squad in a unit of 5 now makes them actually kind of good, I think, because it's it's a much smaller unit. Because I'm pretty sure they were required to be brought in 10s. I think maybe don't
remember. Those are the ones with the silly.
Yeah, the silly missile. I think. Man, now I'm second guessing it. The change that they made, though, was 1 Desolation Sergeant, 4 Desolation Marines is the composition of the unit now, which I believe means that it was 10 before.
Yeah, and so that kind of matches like the old Devastator list.
So cool. And then there's various other things in there that buffing a little bit of the a named character's unit, like their preferred unit now get a control buff. So like if you bring Kasaro Khan, any Outrider units now are control 3 as long as he's in the army. Not even like on the battlefield or attached to them as the unit. If you bring him in the army, he upgrades those units to have a better control characteristic. Same thing with Shrike when his jump pack intercessors.
Okay.
Now
So
they have, yeah.
That harkens back a little bit, though it's different. I remember for several editions, it was like whatever suit of armor, basically, the character was you had, units with that type would become troops or something like that, or you'd unlock an extra slot in the old Force Org chart days. This is like similar in that, where it's like you buy a guy who's known for this, a unit who's like that gets but I think it's a little bit neater in that. I mean, that idea where it's like they just have to be on the battlefield somewhere, and this kind of unit gets a cool buff. That I can deal with, especially since there's rumors in the case of Kasaro Khan or whatever, there are more Outriders coming, or there's going to be variations of what the bikes can be equipped with. So that kind of thing is more useful than just, well, I can take my unit of 3 with the twin bolters on them, derp. Like, no, now that sounds like it could be valuable, or whatever, Ethan Sean or whatever.
Yeah, so a couple of those, and they have one for Ironfather Pharaohs as well. Heavy intercessor squads are now higher control. So, like, it's kind of incentivizing you to bring those kinds of units in that chapter that
to feel like that chapter,
stuff,
yeah.
That's kind of stuff you want to bring anyway. It kind of upgrades those units to be a little bit better. I mean, it's just control, right? It's just control characteristic, but now you've got a 5-man unit taking an objective from another equivalent 5-man unit. Like say you've got 5 jump pack guys going to charge onto an objective against 5 other normal infantry guys. Well, I'm control 10, you're control 5. Like equal numbers, but it's my objective now.
And I have to imagine we've seen it more and more that they're making that type of stuff, that control score and the equivalent in Age of Sigmar, like that becoming much more important now than just if you can fight and kill the thing you're standing across from. Like, I don't want to do that, but maybe that will also point to what 11th will be like, where the control score is going to matter. It's a different way to win the game. And so, yeah, given your unit of heavy intercessors, better control, whatever. And that does, I think you're right, that does make it feel like that chapter a bit without having to give them a whole set of their own rules. It's like, well, if this character does things that makes you want to play the units you think of with that chapter, that's kind of a way to do it, and not just make a generic detachment and everybody's counts as Ultramarines or whatever. So I don't know. That's pretty cool. And we got those updates just with this balance pass, right? Just with,
I believe so. I mean, I think they only included stuff that was new in the sheet. So lots of things highlighted the thing. These are new updates.
Although I think the new Tyranid Prime with Lash Whip, which I agree with you, should just be called On Foot. I actually don't think he has the keyword that lets him benefit from the Warrior's Bioform detachment, which is supposed to be a detachment that features.
That's actually really funny.
So
that's actually really funny.
I think it's still just a Winged Prime and Warriors.
I think I noticed a couple other things going on here. Tyranid's got an update. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Synapse being +1 strength, right? Whenever you're making a melee attack and you're in Synapse, +1 to your strength characteristic of the attack. And each time you take a battle shock test, you roll 3d6 instead of 2d6.
Yeah,
that before.
Yeah, that was a major update they got. I think it was in a White Dwarf in 9th edition, and then something similar ended up permanent in this edition.
Well, it's highlighted for some reason as part of the Synapse.
Oh, maybe the verbiage changed.
Okay. So you roll 3d6 instead of 2d6 to take a battle shock, but it means you're not immune to battle shock, right? Bring in Synapse, but you make it better, and that +1 strength while you're in melee is nice.
Yeah, because it used to just be almost every 40k army was like immune to leadership checks and battle shock tests, and now they've changed that. They can make you good at it, and I think that was the change for them, is they're not just auto passing or at a stock leadership 10. They're now just getting a better dice roll.
Right. And then did Neurolictor have Synapse before?
I'm going to be honest, I don't remember 100%.
Well, he does now. So Neurolictor has Synapse.
Extensive, he does.
The Psychophage has the smoke keyword now.
Yeah, they've
Right.
been. It's funny is he came out in the starter box,
Yeah.
and super cool looking model, but he really didn't do anything. It was like he wanted to fight psychers in melee. That was like his only rule. It was bizarre. So there was no points cost that really worked for him, and so nobody was playing it. And then they gave him rules where he can now fight anything pretty well. He moves pretty fast, and now he can like sort of protect himself for a turn with the smoke a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, he is. They have buffed him multiple times, and now he seems good.
And then could the Neurotyrant join Zoanthropes? Because he can now. I couldn't remember. I can't remember if he could do that before.
I don't think he could before. There were like very specific units that he could join when he came out. He also had his little sentry guys with him that he used to mark some of your units with buffs that he provided.
Yeah.
If he can attach to Zoanthropes now, that's pretty good. I mean,
yeah, that's one of the things he can join. Was the Rupture Cannon always D6+6?
Oh, I don't know. That's only
Damage?
on Forge World models.
The Rupture Cannon? Okay.
Yeah.
It says
Oh, wait.
Tyrannofex.
Oh, wait. Rupture Cannon. Yeah. No. I'm thinking Bio Cannon. Yeah, Rupture Cannon's on the Tyrannofex.
D6+6 damage.
That's huge. If that's true, right. It might have been just 2D. It might have just been 2D6 before.
Okay.
But
yeah, well, 7 minimum.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
That's another one that it's been around for a long time and no one's played it because the artillery gun, the Rupture Cannon, was just never artillery. It never could hit anything hard. A lot of editions only had one shot at BS4, and so you couldn't hit anything, and then it didn't do enough damage. Like
so now it's 48-inch range, 2-shot heavy. So if you stand still, you're BS2.
Yeah.
Strength 18 -4 D6+6.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's all right.
That hits. That's he's on a tough body.
Cool. I saw Gazcool can also join more units. He can join boys and knobs now instead of just mega knobs. That's something.
A cheap tax.
Anyway, there's a whole bunch of changes in there.
Go to the Warhammer community site, download it, read them.
Yep, a lot of stuff. That's just a few things.
So we talked about this. I don't know if we had it on the show, but like we got some tournament results for Age of Sigmar for the first like 3 months, but particularly for February, because March is still going, right? And they removed the Las Vegas Open from the equation when they were doing these numbers, because the Las Vegas Open forever was always in January. And so tournament statistics for those first couple months of the year were always skewed by the fact that LVO has such a big turnout for 40K and Age of Sigmar. I think last year there was like 1,100 or something in the 40K, and there was like 400 or 500 in Age of Sigmar, just huge events. Well, that's not there anymore because now LVO's moved to October. So this is the first time we've gone through January without that massive event. So they thought tournament statistics were going to be poor as everyone's waiting for Adepticon. And then of course the swing of Warhammer opens. But it turns out if you factor out LVO, the overall tournament turnout, at least for Age of Sigmar so far in 2026, is higher than it's ever been. So they had, there were like 19 events that were like 5-round equivalent. So like almost that GT level or RTT level. And the statistics were great. There was a nice even spread. One thing we did see is that the new Maggot of Nurgle have started to make their presence felt. So players have figured out how to use them. I think opponents haven't quite figured out how to oppose them. And so they posted a number of 4-1s, and they did get one win at 1-5-0. A couple of the top 8s, they were heavy. There were like 3 or 4 of them. So people were immediately crying, nerf. We got to nerf this Maggot of Nurgle army.
Which is so funny to me, because when they first came out, before anyone actually played them, it was, oh man, they need to be buffed. They're not good enough. That's like it. This happens every single time a book is released, and it's like crying wolf. That's why they don't knee-jerk change it anymore right away.
No.
It's because it's always like, what, did you learn how to fight against them yet? No. Well, then do that first. And if it's not possible, like clearly they're overstated, they're undercost or whatever, then we can change them. But it's like, play against them or play with them first. See if that's actually the case. Because more often than not, it's fine. They're actually strong when the community says they're weak, or they're really weak when the community says they're busted. Like happens so often.
Well,
I mean, I've seen the complaints for every single book that's been teased already for Age of Sigmar, by the way. Bone Reapers, people are crying they're nerfed to hell, they're gonna be unplayable. It's like, I can already tell you that's false. Like it's just so many things. There's like, oh my God, just wait a few weeks.
well, it's not only just wait a few weeks, because if they don't, so I don't know if anyone listening was around. We had this moment in 9th edition. I think it was just before the Iron Hands Castle Army came out and kind of ruined everything, because it had like a 72% win rate or whatever. But like Gene Stealer Cults came out. And so this was like the first edition where they were getting this proper full codex and a bunch of models, and they had literally one tournament. There was like one GT level event that they won. And it was only one Gene Stealer Cult army in the entire top 16. And it won. Games Workshop, before the next week had passed, did an emergency errata, nerfed them into the dirt. And so something happened. 30 days go by and everybody had started to figure out how to play against them. The Gene Stealer Cult themselves now all cost more points and had worse rules. And then the Iron Hands Codex came out and it beat Gene Stealer Cult into the ground anyway. And Space Marines got a redux. They got a version 2 of a codex in the same edition. And so like Gene Stealer Cults ended up inadvertently getting nerfed 3 times because of that. And they just fell into oblivion for like a year plus. That's why they can't, after a weekend of tournament results, just decide, well, we've got to nerf this army. Maggotkin of Nurgle, I think, they have more rules now than they've ever had, so they have more they can do. But it also took the player base a longer time to learn how to use them, because they play very differently. They actually want to do something different. They want to like give up the center of the field a bit, and then like make their slow movement work to the advantage of the opponent coming at them aggressively. And then they want to spread disease, and now they can do it better. And they have all these modules with synergistic combos in them. It was hard, I think, for the Maggotkin players to figure it out. Now they're figuring it out, and they're finding some things that work very well. Now, across these lists that performed well, there weren't spam things, and there weren't that many repeats. Like the Helga the Cyst Witch, the lady with the worm body, she was kind of in every list. She's very inexpensive. She's from the Darkwater set. She's very inexpensive, very good rules for what she does, compared at least to your other priest in the army. And like Rodigus was in some, but he wasn't in all of them. Some people play the Glotkin, some people play a standard grade and clean when you can't really afford multiples of them. The Rot Swords are very good, but they do the thing that classic Nurgle heavy armor warriors always kind of did, where they can stand in the middle, take a ton of damage, and then deal it back. But everything else was pretty varietous. And it doesn't look like they were blowing out all their opponents. So I think the internet reacting that, oh, they need to nerf him. It's like, hang on. First of all, we have Adepticon coming up, which will be a whole new set of data. Second, we have 5 books of armies that are about to rotate in to Age of Sigmar. We have Ossiarch Bone Reapers, Lumineth Realm Lords, Disciples of Tzeentch, Sylvaneth, and now what's coming right behind them?
Daughters of Cain.
So we've got the books for all. We're hitting the pre-orders one week after another for each. So that is 5 new sets of rules that are going to change the meta. And chances are they were designed around the same time as the Maggotkin of Nurgle book.
Yeah.
We really don't need to nerf them right now, because it'll be Gene Stealer Cults all over again. If they nerf them, then all these books come out. Maggotkin will all of a sudden be a 38% army. Like, just no good. So I think they're probably fine. And I agree with you about Ossiarch Bone Reapers. I don't think they're weak. I think people were used to having very specific things on very specific units, and those very specific units don't have those very specific things anymore. And that always to people reads like a nerf instead of finding a new way to use them.
Right.
Future Blight Kings are an example of that.
Yep. Yeah, they're very, very different than when they used to be, and you can't smash them the way you used to. But I mean, think about like Nurgle, right? You're like, okay, well, this army is very good at getting charged. They want to be charged. They negate your bonuses, whatever. And then you've got Lumineth Realm Lords, Bone Reapers, and Tzeentch that are coming out that have a lot of shooting. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, you don't want to charge us because we'll beat you. Those armies you're playing against them, They just say, okay, fine, we won't then, and they just shoot you to death.
We'll hang
they're
out
not
about
gonna
18 inches away and just
because they're not going to charge. You know, you're not going to charge them because you want to bait them into charging you. And so it's like, my shooting units are now safe because you aren't going to charge me.
Right.
Awesome. You know, like, so yeah, let's not nerf them because like straight up, maybe even bad matchups from these upcoming armies are going to be present. You know, like we might see that right away.
Or the units people are worried about in the Maggotkin of Nurgle will have to change because, like you just pointed out, you got 3 armies that can do some damage at range, and it's like, well, now maybe Nurgle will have to change. Maybe instead of a great big block of Pestigors, which don't move like other beastmen, or Rot Swords, which those 2 units are finding a lot of play, but they're slow. They want to be charged. It's like, well, now maybe you're going to have to play drones or more of the Sloven Knight or something that moves fast because you have to go tag a missile unit. So, or you have to play a singleton thing that can get over there and do it because you need to avoid the traps of like being screened out. Or maybe you'll play what's his name, the Gutrot Spume, and he'll play some Blight Kings and he'll go fly into the back of a thing and
right. You're gonna. I still really like the idea of him. Like, it sounds good to me.
So you're gonna have 2 things. You're gonna have the people crying Maggotkin need nerfed, but they really don't because all these other armies are coming. Then you're gonna have Maggotkin players complain that now they're bad because insert Tzeentch or Realm Lords or something's bad for them. And it's like, well, no, you've got other ideas. You just need to be willing to be flexible. I think that's how they're trying to design these books, is to give them multiple avenues to adjust to a changing meta. And 5 books in one, in like what's going to be like I don't know how many of them are going to be legal for Adepticon, but you're going to have a swing of Warhammer Open tournaments coming up, and you're also going to have 5 new armies. Like, that's a lot.
I think the Adepticon cutoff has already passed. I don't even know if Bone Reapers are going to be legal with their update. At this point, because usually it's like 2 or 3 weeks beforehand. They don't let any new rules come through. I would have to check just to see, but there's a good chance. Yeah, that even Bone Reapers isn't going to be valid, and then definitely after today, like nothing else is to be admitted. You know, so
right.
We'll see what happens to the next big one, the April whatever Warhammer Open, the May Warhammer Open, whatever.
Right. I think there's one in April or May in the Netherlands or something like that. Yeah, and so you'll have a couple of books that rotate in, and we know that can change the meta in a hurry. So, do you have your 1,000 points painted up and ready for your?
Oh no, I'm not done. I've been busy this week, so I really haven't worked on it. And then this weekend got busy too, so I was banking on doing some of that yesterday and today. Just haven't got to it. I need to check to see what my cutoff is. My actual deadline is to have everything written and submitted and available, because I might have to have like a late night, like overnight cram session where I get everything done, because I'm pushing it. I can make it work. I'll put it that way. I can make it work. I've got enough models painted that if I wanted to just whip something together, I absolutely could, and not paint any new stuff, it would be fine.
Okay,
so
sure.
I'm not worried about it one way or the other. I can make it work. I might just not be optimal, or not optimal. What I prefer to take with me might not be available.
Okay. You know, and I know what that's like, because I think every year I wonder if so it's funny. It's like, I'll participate in Golden Demon, right? And you'll go to the event and you'll submit a model, and win or lose, you walk around and you look at everything and you get super inspired. Yeah, I do anyway. I get super inspired to think about and work on the next project. Because when you see the models in person, there's just something you can't get from the pictures on social media. You can see the techniques that were used. You can see the brush strokes. You can see everything. And that to me is actually motivating. I think they look better in person. And then I go home and I'm like, I'm going to start on a bunch of projects right now, so I'm not trying to get in, slide into home at the last. And then months go by and you don't settle on a project, or you change what your focus is, and then life happens, and then all of a sudden you're 6 weeks out and you realize, shoot, I've got nothing even close to done. Well, that of course happened to me this year. And so now I'm trying to work on something we'll see if I get it done in time, because there's like a couple of parts of it that are rather ambitious. I'm hoping to have it done in time too, but I can make it work. Same like you said. But I'm running out of time real quick.
Yeah. So so we'll see. It'll be fine either way. You're worried about more prepping for teaching some classes though, aren't you?
Yeah. So both my classes are now at capacity. They both filled. And so that's a whole new thing for me this year is now I'll be at Adepticon on the other side of everything. Now I'm going to be teaching some classes Thursday afternoon and evening. And then I'll be working at a booth a couple days at the Dracoya booth, slinging products, but also sitting at the table doing painting demos. And so, I'm going to be at a completely different perspective for the convention. So I've been having to think about that stuff and work on logistics with that stuff too. So that'll be a little different, and helping the boss prep a little bit of the marketing material for it. There's a couple of new products that are going to be there. We'll be able to talk more about that, I think, next weekend or the last one before we go.
Are you saying new products like first time it'll be available is at the booth at the convention?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I don't think we have a known target date for after either. So it'll be like
maybe the only time to get it for a while.
Yeah. And it'll be a decent supply, but it will still be limited. So, people and these are great. I got to play with them. So, that said, so I've had all this other stuff that and making content. Obviously we do the podcast here, and then I make some video content that goes up on usually through Dracoya's channel, but collaborates with us. And so, so I haven't had as much time to just think about the Golden Demon as everything else. I still look at him and I still want to do it, but we'll see if I get him done. I mean, that shouldn't be as grueling as getting 1,000 points ready, but
yeah.
Have you developed tricks that like, one thing with army painting is like, when you're someone like me who usually paints stuff for display or for teaching or for competition, it's like hard for me to then switch to army mode. One piece of advice I heard from someone else who does that, which was Andy Wardle, no affiliation, but he says his goal every year is to paint about 5 or 6 total models, if that gives you an idea of how many hours he puts into a piece. But he, like the rest of us, owns armies for various games. And so he's like, how do I do that? Because when I try to sit down and paint quickly, I end up hating how it looks. And he had to switch his thought process about the step-by-step. And so he was saying like, well, let's say you normally do a base coat, a wash or a glaze pass, and then you do 3 or 4 highlights, specular highlight, maybe some battle damage. When you're painting something good, if you try to squeeze all that into a sloppy tabletop version, those steps end up looking like garbage. And so what his recommendation, or something he enjoyed, he tried it with like his Space Marine scouts that he had for Kill Team or something, was he reduced the total number of steps, period. So instead of trying to get base coat, wash, glaze, 5 highlight, specular highlight, battle damage, he just went like, make the base coat really nice, make the shade pass really nice, do like 1 highlight or 1 battle damage pass, and that's it. So he was still shrinking the total time he needed to paint it, but nice steps will look better than more steps, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for
sure. That
sure.
was one interesting way to look at it.
Well, so like a lot of the stuff that I'm doing is skin. So skin is both easy and hard, right? My biggest challenge was trying to make the models look different enough, because there's a lot of skin tones, and especially because it's last time I was painting it was Dark Oath. I didn't want them all just to be the same skin tone, so I basically broke them up into batches where it was 20% of the army is going to be this kind of skin tone, 20% this one, 20% this one. And I did 5 different like skin tones, and I painted those all together in batches. So I didn't have to worry about switching colors, remembering recipes, things like that. And trying to do, it was more like base. I kind of did like base coat primer / in the same pass. Tinted that light primer with my skin tone, whether it was a contrast or an ink or something, to get sort of that shadow plus a little bit of a highlight on that skin. And then it was lots of like quick cleanup steps where I was almost wet blending kind of smooth parts of the skin, right? Because that allowed me to both kind of clean up some of the primer that you could see underneath, but give me a highlight and leave the model kind of muddy, kind of dirty, because these are barbarians, right? So I allowed that to also kind of be a dirty, like dirt, literally dirt, like collecting in the person's armpits, not in their armpits, but in their creases, in between them and their clothes, things like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to catch, the people don't bathe regularly, so I want them to be a little dirty looking. And then if you've got some splotches or things like that, you lean into that. You make it like, well, maybe it is blood stains, maybe it is actual mud, whatever. You don't worry about cleaning up everything. You let some of those, some earlier steps kind of like dictate where you go with your details beyond. And so that really sped things up, because I wasn't worried about cleaning up everything and making everything nice, solid colors and, smooth blends and stuff. It's like, I want it to be kind of disheveled, some scars, things like that. So that helped me speed things up significantly. You kind of got to let go from your display quality and be like, well, what can I do quickly to cover some stuff up and make it more believable, make it more realistic, make it more whatever, you're trying to do. But still look good without like hating it, So that's the big thing. Is it's I know you've run into that where you've painted started a paint scheme for an army, and you're like, man, I painted this one really good, but I'm not going to do this across every army because I hate the way it looks without putting that much time into it. Until you went and you developed a paint scheme that you could quickly do and you could quickly replicate. Like, you went into it with like, all right, I want 3 steps to get this done. How can I make it look, acceptable to my eye with as few steps as possible?
Yeah, and so it's funny as well. I haven't worked on them in a while. With the Tyranids, that was a big one. I've collected and played, I guess, loosely, Tyranids on and off since they began in second edition. Like, I guess they had Genestealer, Cult Magus, and like first, whatever. But like the Tyranids as an army, I've collected on and off, and then I've sold them and gotten them back, whatever. I've never liked the paint scheme that I've had for them, and for that reason. And for a long time, the studio paint jobs, I think, for them looked bad. And my most recent attempt, which people can look at my Instagram if they want and see some of them, I finally found a scheme that I thought looked good, was unique enough, could fit really any high fleet I wanted to say they were a part of. But more importantly, it was repeatable quickly, because you went in these very specific phases where you didn't have to go back and forth with something. It was like you did this very specific thing where you actually used the primer color as your base. You used a contrast paint or your wash steps. Then you did your highlight steps, and then you did the base, and it ends up, so you go through that and that ended up kind of enjoyable, because it was like when you follow steps to build something and it goes the way you want. So that was kind of, that made it enjoyable, looked good, and it was reducing the total number of steps, but doing those few steps I did well. And so I still got to feel like I was putting my talent into it, so to speak, or my skill into it, but just cut way down on the steps. And so it wasn't as dreadful to approach a unit of Gaunts, let's say, as opposed to what it would have been like before. So
I think it's also seeing meaningful progress too. Really helps keep motivated to get that done.
It does.
Where it's like, man, I know I have to do like 1,000 different glaze steps to create this color I want to. I'm not seeing the results right away. Like that immediate like gratification is a big part of, I think, staying motivated. And if you're doing it with a display piece or a competition piece where you got to put a lot of work into it, taking photos and seeing the progress, once you're done with a few hours, I think is important to see the difference. Because like while you're doing it, you may not really notice much changing, but taking it before and after, basically on just a spot of the model, really helps. With this kind of a painting process, you can really see the results quick. And I think without having to take before and after photos, you're like, oh yeah, okay, that made the red claws really stood out there. I can see the difference I'm making. right away. I can crank through this.
Well, yeah, and that's an interesting point you bring up there. Taking photos or having someone else even look at it. Because when you're sitting there staring at a piece for so long, or at an assembly line of pieces for so long, you might not feel like you're doing much. I know I've had painting sessions on like a bust I'm working on for a display, and I'll sit there for an hour, 2 hours, adding all, and then I'll look at it and feel like I've done nothing. It's like, man, this is just. But then another set of eyes look at it, or I take a photo and compare. It's like, oh wait, no, this has actually changed quite a bit with some very simple steps. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Is actually making progress and realizing you're actually making progress, not just hammering at it and being like, I'm not getting anywhere. So
yeah, I'm no closer to done. Right. Because that feeling's demotivating in a hurry. Yeah. But I imagine it's like that if you are, I don't know, if you're putting together, if you ever have family come over and you dread that experience, and you've got to do something for them, you've got to like make dinner, and you just think this night's never going to end, this meal's never going to get finished, it's never going to turn out right. But at the end, when you see all the empty plates and you look at the before and after, you realize you did do something.
Yeah. Clear those plates.
Clear those plates. That's the difference. Clear the plates. Get them off your plate.
Yeah. I could go for clearing a plate right now.
I could clear a couple plates, I think.
Yeah. Let's eat.